So last week, I invited you to consciously move through each day, focusing on, searching for, if you have to, discovering and reminding yourself of what's working in your life. And when you do that, to activate this heart energy center with gratitude, appreciation, love, might even be inspiration if you're out in nature and you just are in awe of the beautiful scenes around you. So how many people even once tried to be focused on looking for the good? And I see some hands going up there. You can just do a thumbs up if you're watching us online. For most of us, it takes this intentionality to shift our ego's default mode of what the author described as negativity bias. Our ego is always on the lookout for what might be wrong, for what might be unsafe, for what might be dangerous for us. So that's its default. So in order to shift that, it takes focused attention. It just doesn't happen by itself. And research has shown that there's lots of physical benefits when we can, throughout our day, bring those elevated emotions into our energy field. Excuse me. Feelings like love and gratitude and compassion. If we activate those more and more often in our day, there's actually healing benefits that begin to also have an opportunity to do their magic work because we're in that more relaxed state. I don't know if this was your experience, but I've noticed over the years that when people first sort of awaken to this greater reality of their inherent divine nature, all right, I may need that coffee, because I've got ragweed. I don't know how many of you have issues with ragweed, but 3 weeks now has made me miserable. Anyway, so when people are first awakening to their own divine nature, when they finally hear it and it resonates as truth for them, the ego can often be looked at as something bad, to be gotten rid of, to be eliminated out of our life. It's been causing us all the trouble, so we need to just figure out a way to make it go away. Reverend Jane Simmons writes a lot about the ego in her book, You Can't Sleep Through Your Awakening. And she reminds us that there is nothing inherently bad or wrong about the ego. In fact, it's a necessary part of our human journey. It's what allows us, all right, I'm hoping that's it, to navigate the sensory world. If we didn't have our ego and we had to consciously think about everything that we have to do throughout the day, we would be challenged to get a whole lot done. By default, though, if we're unconscious of it, the ego will also assume the driver's seat. And the challenge is that the ego is a very bad driver. Its eyesight is impaired. It's obscured. Do you remember? Okay, I know a few of you out there have some familiarity with Mr. Magoo. Just like him, the ego's eyesight is impaired. It's obscured by beliefs and myths and judgments and experiences. It's described as like looking through a partially shuttered, dirty window and believing that we see everything clearly. That's the lens that we, by default, will look out at the world. A different way of thinking about it, physicist Sean Carroll describes it as a bubbling cauldron of preferences, wants, sentiments, aspirations, likes, feelings, attitudes, predilections, values, and devotions. It's all of that just at any given moment ready to rise up. And we come also by default to believe it is who we are, that that's our identity. I am all of those things. So here's an easy mental exercise I want you to try out. You can even try it right now, but when you're out and in conversation, or even just to be paying attention to your thoughts and how they speak within your own mind, see if you can go for 1 hour without using the word I. I is the identity of the ego. And in order to do that, we would have to really change our language. It would sound quite weird. So if I'm feeling angry, and I say I'm angry or I feel angry, and that, instead of being able to say that, it might be a sentence something like, there's anger brewing from within because the dishes aren't done. It's the same description, but it's an objective way of looking at it versus making it the personal I. Or there's an experience of love rising up rather than just saying, I feel love or I love. So if the ego, as we do this work, becomes the passenger, then who moves into the driver's seat? The author calls it the authentic self. Others may call it our divine essence, our creative mind, our indwelling spirit, our soul, and, as we often refer to it in unity, our Christ nature. That divinity of Christ that is within us, that we have been created from. Jesus demonstrated what this looks like, how we look when we take on that Christ nature as humility, as compassion, as generosity, as unconditional love. And while the people of Jesus' time had no awareness of the ego, they didn't understand how our psyches worked. You would have baffled them if you talked about their shadow nature. It's like, what, that thing that's behind me here? These were all concepts that were beyond their knowing, at least at that time, and yet they understood that the path to what they called salvation was by humbling their human self to their divine nature, to their Christ nature. John the Baptist described it this way in John 3. He said, "He must increase and I must decrease." When he's talking about the coming Christ, they were saying, no, you were first, you're the one, we want to follow you. And in order for this to happen, that ego part of us must decrease, and the divine nature within us must increase. More and more often, we want that divine nature to be in our driver's seat. And it allows us then to drive from the awareness that we are each individualized expressions of that one life. Our second unity principle, that this divine nature is within all of us, not just in a chosen one. And that we are indeed repositories of the infinite alive within us. It's remembering that we are, as Jane liked to put it, way more than what we appear to be, or even what the ego would say that we are. When we're connected to our authentic self, we have access to the wisdom and to the guidance of the heart, because that's where the divine nature lives from. The ego tends to be up here, but when we are in our heart, we can be pretty well assured that we are allowing that authentic self to be in the driver's seat. So this morning, as we move into our meditation time, I wanted to invite you to see in this moment whether you can allow your divine nature, your Christ self, your soul, your spirit, whatever you'd like to call it, invite it into the driver's seat for just a little while and see what wisdom and guidance might be awaiting you today. So as you just get comfortable where you're at, if it's easier, you can close your eyes or just focus on some point in the room so that all of your attention begins to move inward. Becomes aware of the breath that's always there, breathing us, even though the vast majority of the time we are unconscious to the way it works in and out of our body. The breath can also bring us to this now moment, for this is the only moment that we are breathing in. And as you just let that breath flow naturally and easily in and out of your body, see if you can bring your attention to your heart space, to that energy center in the center of your chest. Almost imagining now that you're breathing in and out of your heart. And in this sacred center of the divine, to remember and to feel that we are interconnected with all of life, because all of life contains the same energy, the same God DNA as we do. And to activate this center even into a greater and greater energy, I invite you to bring into this space someone or something that you are grateful for, that you appreciate, that brings you that energy of love. Whether it's a place in nature or a relationship, a beloved pet, even someone that is beyond this physical realm. As you think about them, remember what it felt like to be so grateful, to feel that sense of love and connectedness. And as the energy in your heart grows and grows, the more you hold that feeling of gratitude and love. You open the field for wisdom and guidance, to become conscious in your mind, in your intuitive nature, and in your heart. All that we need to do is listen. And so we move for a time into the quiet where we can receive. And know that you can return to this place at any moment. You can activate that infinite wisdom, understanding. You can see through the eyes of God when you are centered in a grateful heart. You can heal from this place. For this is the very energy infusing our minds and our bodies and our spirits that all of creation was expressed into. where all things are possible if we believe. And so as you begin to once again be aware of your breath and the sounds in the room and the chair that's supporting you, taking one more deep breath, whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. So waking up, becoming aware of our shadows, those myths, those messages, those limited beliefs, many of them that we took on when we were a very young child, needs to become an intentional practice, because ego-deflating work isn't something that we typically happily take on. I don't know anybody who wakes up and goes, boy, I hope I get triggered today. I hope there's a lot of stuff that goes down, so I really get to work on moving the ego into the passenger seat and taking over the driver's seat. So what do we use as our wake-up call as we go through the day? And actually it is those very moments when we get triggered, when somebody pushes our buttons, that are the golden opportunities to peek behind those reactions, to get curious about them, and to awaken to the unconscious shadow parts that we're holding and that affect, that color, that change our perception. Because just by the very act of being aware of them, we can activate the process to heal them, to re-educate them, to choose again to have a different belief. Richard Rohr suggests that our wounds are God's hiding place, and they hold our greatest gifts. Just as we individually take on certain limited beliefs based on our experiences, and we choose what we make them to mean, so do communities like ours. So do any kind of energetic body that is together and moves over time. Based on the experience, there are hidden shadows that filter the perceptions of what is happening today. And that's why we have invested our time and our resources, and more than 40 people showed up for this genogram activity a few weeks ago, so that we could awaken to who Center of Unity's authentic self is, who has this body of energetic souls come to be in our world, and what are the shadow qualities that can sometimes get in the way of that can show up when we least expect it and try and sabotage that expression. Gary Simmons, who led us through this experience, has created a short video summarizing those efforts that we did over that weekend. So ultimately, we created what he calls a cue card. Here's who we've come here to be, and we usually look at the other, please have compassion when we're being this, because we're just waking up to what those shadow qualities are that we carry. And energetically, we carry them. New people, different, may never have that experience, but yet the energy still accompanies the journey of this community. So I'm going to let you get that started, Nick.
Hello, Center of Unity. This is Reverend Dr. Gary Simmons, and along with my wife, Reverend Dr. Jane Simmons, we visited your ministry 2 weeks ago, September 5th and 6th, to conduct an event called the Genogram Activity. For those of you who are familiar with the quantum living process, it's as if we're putting the ministry through the quantum living process, where we discern who and what it has come here to be, as well as the limiting beliefs, the shadow issues that are also part of the ministry's culture, embedded in its past. The two-part series began with Friday evening, the Circle of Honor, where we were asking the participants to identify the values that they would like to have mirrored back to them as a part of their experience in the ministry. And so here's a picture of the values that were created Friday evening. As you can see in the slide, there are many values that represent the various elements of what the participants wanted to have mirrored back to them, such things as spiritual growth, spiritual teachings, acceptance, integrity, authenticity, love, and inclusiveness, as well as spirit-centered community. Now, all of these values represent what people want to have as a part of their experience. And that's important to note, because when we talk about the church's past and the things that have happened in the course of the many decades that this ministry has been in existence, it's not uncommon for the regrets that people talk about arise from the inability to embody these values. And so, as a part of the process, the second day, which is called the Inconvenient Truth, Telling Our Story, was an opportunity for us to map out all the events and circumstances that were typical with respect to what has happened over the years since 1983, when this church was founded originally. So in this next slide, you see the genogram that we created Saturday. And it consists of identifying the various eras associated with the tenure of a spiritual leader, or an in-between time when there wasn't anyone there. And so in the course of identifying the various elements of each era, we looked at the attendance range as well as the accomplishments, or the prouds, the things that have happened that made the community value and experience a sense of pride associated with what was going on at the church. And in addition to that, we looked at the regrets, or the sorries, the things that have happened that contribute to the regrets that people have with respect to what has happened in their ministry. And then we talked about a transition range. In other words, how was it to move from one era to the next on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being no big deal, 10 being a lot of trauma. So what we discover in the genogram activity as the unintended consequences of the minister-centric ministry practice is that people take on beliefs about the church and themselves with respect to what has happened. And so as you look at the unresolved issue column of the genogram, we get a lot of information about what has been the legacy associated with each era. In other words, in the minister-centric ministry practice, the eras are inherited by subsequent spiritual leaders. And so by the time you come to present day, you have accumulated lots of baggage associated with what has happened in the ministry. And we want to presence those issues so that we can begin to step out of and transcend the limitations that this ministry inadvertently has taken on. So in the process of discerning what your cue card and shadow card might be, we take into consideration the values that you've identified that you want mirrored back to you as the qualities of being that could be understood as who and what you've come here to be as a ministry. And then there is looking at the unintended consequences, the unresolved issues, as being a source for what we can discern as the shadow beliefs that are still a part of the ministry's culture or embedded in the corporate memory of the ministry. So I'd like to first begin with your shadow card. This is who you are not: a sense of not enough, distrusting, hurt, blaming, powerless, and fearful. And then there is who you've come here to be: loving, integral, unstoppable, spirit-led, empowered, inclusive, and authentic. Now, once again, these are discerned from what you've identified as your values, the values that you want mirrored back to you, as well as the unresolved issues that you identified in the course of telling the church's story. Now, there is a practice that I'm going to invite your ministry to participate in, you as a community, that on every Sunday for the next year, probably somewhere around where you affirm your evolutionary purpose statement, transforming lives and inspiring people to make a positive difference in our world, you could also affirm together as a congregation the following: Please have compassion for us when we are being not enough, distrusting, hurt, blaming, powerless, and fearful, because this is who we have come here to be: loving, integral, unstoppable, spirit-led, empowered, inclusive, and authentic. And so while you affirm this every Sunday, you're going to have to create a context for it. In other words, there will be people who come to church for the very first time and will wonder, well, what's up with this? And so it'd be of value to help them understand that this is a part of your ministry's practice, to be able to work on transcending those limiting experiences and beliefs that you've accumulated in your rich history, and realize that the qualities of being that you also have identified are the antidotes to those unfortunate circumstances that have contributed to the myths, messages, and beliefs that are embedded in the church's culture. So once again, please have compassion for us when we are being not enough, distrusting, hurt, powerless, and fearful, because this is who we've come here to be: loving, integral, unstoppable, spirit-led, empowered, inclusive, and authentic. God bless you. See you on the light side.
Can you say yes? Okay, I'm going to take that. I'm not going to make you do it again, but yes. Yes. So as we recognize how our shadows are oftentimes running our life, keeping us in the same old storms of conflict and sometimes confusion, and the more we intentionally, as part of this process, invite our authentic self to take over the driving, we discover the beauty of life that's always been there, that there are rainbows all around us when we're willing to take down our umbrella. Well, it is our opportunity now to share of our financial good. If you're watching online, you can once again go to that website, and there's a gift page right there that you can share a gift with us. And if you scroll down a little bit, you also get an affirmation if you go out on that page. For those of you here, in just a moment, the ushers are going to invite you to come up row by row as you share a gift today, or even if it's not your Sunday to give, or you give electronically, come and be in the flow of giving and receiving. You can put one of the little committed giving cards in there, or just simply hold your hand over the basket to feel that energy of giving and receiving flowing in and through this ministry, and then to receive an affirmation to bless you this week. So let us take what we offer today into our hands and into our hearts as we join and bless it together. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, Father, Mother God. So as we go into this week, inviting that authentic self to step into the driver's role more and more often, we go knowing our prayer for protection. We'll do it as call and response. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Let's do it together. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.